I still remember the sound of her laughter that night. Soft, nervous, and unlike the one she used to give me. It echoed down the marble hallway of that luxury hotel, mingling with the faint clink of glasses and muffled jazz from the rooftop bar. And that's when I knew. Something inside me broke. My name is Ethan Cole, and for 12 years I believed I had everything a man could want. A stable marriage, a rising career, and a woman who once looked at me like I hung the stars. My wife, Lena, had been my anchor since college. Ambitious, beautiful, and fiery in her dreams. We were the kind of couple people envied. Or so I thought. When I joined Bennett and Gray, one of the top marketing firms in the city, life finally felt like it was taking off. My boss, Charles Bennett, was a man people either admired or feared. Smooth, ruthless, and born with the kind of charm that could make anyone feel like the center of the world. Including, as I later found out, my wife. First, I was grateful to him. He mentored me, invited us to his events, praised my work in front of executives. Lena loved those evenings. The glitter, the attention, the compliments Charles showered her with. But then things began to shift. It started with little things. A sudden change in Lena's wardrobe, the perfume she hadn't worn since college, the late-night book club meetings that somehow stretched past midnight. I tried to dismiss it as paranoia. Marriage was about trust, after all. And Lena had never given me a reason to doubt her. Until one night. It was the evening of the company's winter gala, a black tie event Charles hosted every year. Lena insisted on coming, said she wanted to support me in front of the higher-ups. She looked stunning, radiant in a crimson dress that turned every head in the room, including his. I watched Charles kiss her hand longer than necessary, his thumb tracing her wrist as he whispered something that made her blush. My gut twisted, but I forced a smile. I told myself I was overthinking. But later, when I went looking for her, she wasn't in the ballroom, or the lobby, or the terrace. Then I heard that laughter. Her laughter. It was coming from the executive suite corridor, Charles's private section of the hotel. My body went cold. I walked quietly, every step heavy with dread. I stopped outside his suite. The door wasn't fully closed. Through the gap I saw Lena, my wife, leaning against his desk, her eyes locked on him as he tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. And then she kissed him. The world went silent. I didn't barge in. I didn't scream. Just stood there, watching the woman I built my life around unravel everything with one choice. When I finally turned away, I didn't feel anger. Just emptiness, the kind that eats you alive from the inside. I didn't confront her that night. Couldn't. Instead, I went home, poured myself a drink, and stared at the wedding photo on the mantel. I kept replaying the years, the laughter, the struggles, the nights we spent dreaming of our future. All of it a lie. When she came home past midnight, I pretended to be asleep. She slipped into bed, smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't mine. That's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to destroy her with rage. I was going to destroy him. For the next month, I became a ghost in my own home. Silent, calm, pretending to be oblivious. Lena continued her affair, believing she was clever enough to hide it. Charles kept praising me, unaware I was quietly collecting every file, every email, every document that could expose his dirty dealings. You see, Charles wasn't just unethical in his personal life. He was hiding financial fraud inside the company. I'd always suspected, but never cared to prove it. Now I had a reason. Late nights became my weapon. I spent hours tracing transactions, pulling records, piecing together a puzzle of deceit, all under the guise of extra work. And when I had enough evidence to bury him, I waited for the right moment. That moment came faster than I expected. One morning, Lena told me she wanted space. She said she felt lost and needed time to think. I nodded, pretending to understand. She packed a bag, said she'd be at her sister's for the weekend. But I already knew where she was going. Charles's cabin on the lake. That was fine. Let them have their weekend. It would be their last together. That Friday I walked into the office early. Calm, focused, deadly. I met with the board privately. I handed them the files. The fraud trail, the offshore accounts, the misuse of company funds. Everything. By noon, Charles Bennett's empire was collapsing. By evening, he was escorted out of the building, pale, sweating, eyes wide with disbelief. And I stood by the window, watching him walk past me without a word. When I got home, Lena was there, suitcase half open, eyes red from crying. She'd found out. The company had frozen his accounts, the press had broken the story, and Charles had lost everything, including her illusion of the man she thought he was. She tried to explain, to justify, to reach for me. "Ethan, I didn't mean for it to happen like this," she whispered. I stared at her. The woman I once loved more than life itself. "Didn't mean for what?" I said quietly. "For me to find out. Or for him to lose everything." Tears filled her eyes. "I made a mistake." "No," I interrupted. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. What you did was a choice." She sank onto the couch, sobbing. "I thought you didn't love me anymore. He made me feel seen." I wanted to hate her, but all I felt was pity. For her. For me. For the years we'd wasted. I walked to the door and looked back one last time. "You wanted space, Lena," I said. "You've got it now." Then I left. The weeks that followed were quiet. Almost too quiet. Word spread fast. Charles faced criminal charges. His reputation was gone. Lena moved out of our home and I filed for divorce. Everyone expected me to fall apart. But I didn't. I rebuilt. Slowly, deliberately. I accepted a promotion. His position, ironically, and started fresh. Yet, even as life moved forward, the nights still haunted me. Not because of her betrayal, but because of how easy it had been for love to die. How silence and small distances had turned two people into strangers. Sometimes I'd catch myself wondering if I could have saved us. If I'd noticed sooner, talked more, held her closer. But then I'd remember that moment, her lips on his, her laughter echoing in that hallway, and I'd know the answer. Some things aren't meant to be fixed. A few months later I ran into her again, at a coffee shop downtown. She looked thinner, older somehow, carrying the kind of sadness that doesn't fade. She smiled weakly. "You look good, Ethan." He nodded. "You don't." She laughed softly, a bitter sound. "Fair enough." There was a long silence between us. Then she said, "He's gone. Moved to another city. No one wants to hire him." I sipped my coffee. "Guess karma's got good timing." She hesitated. "Do you ever miss me?" I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time I didn't feel anger. Just peace. "I miss who you were," I said quietly. "But she doesn't exist anymore." She nodded, tears glistening. "I'm sorry." "I know," I said. "I just wish you'd been sorry before." And with that I walked away, leaving behind the ghost of a love that had once been everything. That night, as I stood by my apartment window, city lights flickering below, I realized something. Charles Bennett had stolen my wife. But I had taken everything else. His power, his pride, his illusion of control. And though revenge never truly heals, it gave me something better than closure. Gave me freedom.